Welcome to Gamtrix, I'm Matt, and today I'll be talking you through my review of Boyfriend Dungeon. So without further ado, let's get to it. Love is war, and I'm without a weapon. Or at least I was until I started playing Boyfriend Dungeon. Developed by Gamtrix Games, Boyfriend Dungeon was actually a Kickstarter game that launched in August of 2018 that gained a staggering amount of attention and a killer original soundtrack by Mark Sky and vocal talent from Madeline McQueen. You date your weapons? Yep, you heard me right. You romance your swords, daggers, and polearms to level them up in this dungeon crawling dating sim. One of the most diverse and LGBT plus friendly dating sims to hit the gaming world, where the spicy twist of dungeon crawling really gives the game a compelling reason to return, whilst appealing to everyone in some form. Maybe not wildly known until release, Boyfriend Dungeon has certainly made a big impact, and new DLC has given us further reason to dive into this diverse world of love, relationships, and dungeons. Okay, I'm going to avoid spoilers as much as possible, but some are unavoidable, so I apologise in advance. And it's worth mentioning that Boyfriend Dungeon touches upon some issues relating to stalking, unwanted advances, and other forms of emotional manipulation. Okay, you start the game by choosing some very inclusive options for your player character, such as gender, pronouns, and outfits, with all aspects being friendly and tasteful to how you identify as a person. We then begin our adventure by arriving in Verona Beach. You're going to be staying here for the summer, meeting with your cousin who kindly offers you a place to stay while you're here. The world is not huge, but it's not the big world that offers the main attraction. It's the people we meet along the way and the relationships we forge. The thrill of adventure was meeting new people and discovering more about them whilst leveling and them and ourselves higher and higher. Our first venture into a dungeon, or as the game collectively calls them, dunge, was exciting. We met our first weapon, and within minutes of conversation, we had a majestic transformation and our pulse racing. Each conversation and engagement was meaningful and never felt like a waste of dialogue, provoking emotions in the right possible way at the right time. There are 7 possible romance options in the game, and you are not limited to just a single relationship. The game is inclusive, and if you're a polyamorous person, you will feel right at home. Since the DLC, there have been 2 more romanceable options added to the game. In our experience with dating sims, they can feel a little robust and stoic. However, this was not the case with Boyfriend Dungeon. There were many times we felt disarmed by the thrilling and realistic conversations we had with our respective love interests. Isaac, the first weapon we met in the game, was elegant and gentlemanly and respected our every boundary. This is a sharp contrast to Sunder, who we met next, and didn't really respect our boundaries at all and proceeded to be very forward with his flirtatious talk and actions. This is partly why I fell head over heels for this game. Conversations were very different between each lover we pursued in unique personalities that didn't make them feel like rehashed versions of the same thing, and very distinguished from each other. We all know that the trials and tribulations of love could be hard, but having a strong fantasy game where we can pursue people that we wouldn't normally dream of approaching in real life and never consider feelings like feel like a dream come true, whilst giving us a new perspective on people and how we approach love and its many challenges. The pace of the game is practically perfect. At no point did we feel bored or unsatisfied, as we were always taking the plunge into the dunge and going on great dates with our weapons. Speaking of which, the dungeon itself is a completely different experience from the dating aspect of the game, and this is where we think the magic really lies. As a fan of action games and dungeon roguelites, this incorporation in the game of the reliance you have to have in leveling your weapons to be able to go on more dates is the captivating formula that keeps you coming back. Combat is a mix of simple but challenging, with simple combos to use and dodge rolling being your bread and butter. More complex moves, combos, and abilities unlock as you level up your weapons, with each offering unique abilities and effects that are unique to them and their personality type. The risk-reward mentality is always at play here while moving deeper into the dungeon, with the challenge increasing as you descend. If you take too much damage, you're escorted out of the dungeon via an ambulance and arrive back at your apartment. This is just like the roguelike element of retrying, only you don't lose anything you collect. Resource collection is also going to be something to watch out for. Crafting gifts for your weapons is a primary mechanic in the game. Giving the right gift to the right person can boost your love rank dramatically and increase the chances of another date. Crafting was a bit of a hassle for us as we never seemed to have the right crafting resources at the right time, which led us to doing more frequent trips to the dungeon and finding them, or spending our hard-earned money for extortionate rates in the small stores around a small amount of resources. Throughout the story of the game, we meet a large variety of different people. Many are living on the island and interacting in our lives while we were on Earth. However, we were not aware of how deeply our actions with each potential lover would affect other people, even as far as shaping opinions of us and how we are treated. This was a great touch to the game as I felt more grounded with each decision we made, giving us more weight and thought to each decision, remembering that each person has real feelings and they can be hurt very easily. If anything, the game is a big lesson in boundaries, identity, and how to express yourself without hurting others. Whilst our phone is blowing up pretty much all the time, we always prioritise who we wanted to date and made sure to navigate our way through them first. Getting to and from dates in the dungeon was pretty simple, being presented as a large map you run to different locations and enter your dates and dungeons. It's uncomplicated and very easy to use, which is good because we're getting into enough complication with all the relationships we're trying to manage at once. Combat in the dungeon is a mix of 2 attack buttons and a roll button, so it's very simple but will require practice to master and start to gain new abilities that will change how your combos will work. We did feel the combat could have used a little more complication to spice it up a bit for those who are dungeon crawling veterans, but at no point did we feel it was too much or too challenging. There wasn't any point where it felt too easy either. The perfect balance was struck as we descended deeper with each layer of the dungeon before facing a difficult dungeon boss, which also happens to be one of your deepest fears. This applies to the social interaction side of the game too, as you delve deeper into the relationship with your weapons. The intricacies involved with keeping the conversation going in the right way was a little challenging, but it was fun. There is no wrong way to play the game, and with so many different ways to build relationships with people, you'll be coming back again and again to try them all out. And the world in a novel style look, which is very pleasing to the eye and really shows the extraordinary love and detail that's been crafted into each character. The graphical style suits this type of game. Visual fidelity isn't what we're here for, if we're honest. Dating games are far more fleshed out with dialogue and simple visuals, giving your imagination a creative playground to explore. However, with the novel style here, it's less neat, as you can envelop your eyes in every aspect of the world and its characters. Boyfriend Dungeon is stunning to look at, but it feels a little bit more lyrical treat to the ears, with voice acting for characters. Hearing the responses of your weapons that you're so desperately trying to romance really gives a more personal feel to the game. While not all of it's voice acted, which we have preferred, it's enough to keep you focused on them while they speak. The original soundtrack to the game is a complete work of art, smoothly sliding into the background, and lyrics reach out to you at just the right time. It's smooth and waxes well with the aesthetic, mood, and feeling of uplifting love. For us, it was enough for us to download the original soundtrack to listen to whenever we liked. Composed by Mark Sky and given vocals by Madeleine McQueen, creating the perfect accompaniment to the game, and fusing the sound of beats in the dungeon while destroying monsters, so satisfying. Or as a slow piano and drumming roll while we're on a romantic date. Boyfriend Dungeon's main story comes in at 6 to 8 hours, depending on the way you choose to play. So the game is not a long drawn out campaign, and I would have liked it to be a little longer, but that's definitely the beauty of it. The game is ready to be replayed over again. There are many different ways you can romance or befriend your weapons in Verona Beach. Failing that, if you just want a summer fling with everyone, there's an option to do that too. Just don't expect the weapons to be too pleased with you when you leave at the end. The reward of romancing and playing around with each different weapon and the story is a gift in itself. There's always something new to try, and each playthrough can be entirely different from the last. Boyfriend Dungeon doesn't require 100 hours of investment either. You can hop in and out, and it's easy to know what's happening without needing to retrace any steps to catch up. This could be your commute home game, or relaxing for an hour on the train where you build relationships with weapons and learn more about Verona Beach. So, Boyfriend Dungeon, the weapon dating sim that has you crawling through dungeons to fight your fears and romance swords, daggers, and polearms, is a masterpiece infusion of 2 genres. Not as long as we would have liked, but with replay value that can be counted, a stunning visual novel style, original soundtrack, and limited voice acting, giving the game a real personal touch. Simple, uncomplicated controls make the dungeon fun to play through, but we would have liked some more depth to it. A crafting system that felt stacked against you did leave a bad taste in our mouth, leaving us feeling like resource gathering was a chore and less of a pleasure. Building relationships with weapons is a crazy and outlandish idea that just simply works. Building rapport with weapons and having unique personalities that always felt real and engaging kept me invested and wanting to spend more time with them. We would highly recommend picking up Boyfriend Dungeon, no matter how you identify. It's an absolute blast with some real world lessons that everyone should be aware of. If you're considering dating a weapon, I would say jump in and go for it. Just make sure it's in this game and not in the real world. Thanks for listening to this review. What do you think about the game? Do you feel any differently? If there's anything I missed that you can think of, be sure to mention it in the comments, and as always, be sure to subscribe for regular updates, videos and reviews right here in the Gamtrix.